Well, it's October, spooky month, so it's time for some spooky games, and we're going to start out with Dark Castle on the Commodore 64. This game has a pretty creepy setting, taking place inside the Dark Castle, home of the Black Knight. Though, you couldn't tell that from the box art. We've got what looks like some flying monkeys and an old door, and I guess this is who you're supposed to play as, though he doesn't seem very heroic. Well, anyway, we really shouldn't judge a game by its cover, so let's turn on the computer and jump right in. Dark Castle was originally released in 1986 for the Apple Macintosh. Despite being monochrome, the game was praised for its crisp, detailed graphics, along with its use of digitized sound samples and its unique control scheme. The player moved the character using the keyboard and used the mouse to aim and throw rocks. It ended up being ported to many machines, including the Sega Genesis, MS-DOS, and the Commodore 64. The game is a platformer where you have to make your way through the Dark Castle to reach the Black Knight. Along the way, you'll find magic fireballs and a magic shield to help you. The castle consists of 4 areas, each consisting of 3 or 4 rooms. As you progress, you'll meet many enemies, and you can choose to avoid them, which is what I often do, or you can try to kill them. Your only weapons are rocks. Yeah, rocks. You throw rocks at whatever you want to kill. Anytime you hit something, you score points. You also score points based on how quickly you clear each room. And that's it. It seems simple, right? Well, it's not. At least on the Commodore, the biggest problem is the control. You have 2 choices of how you want to play. You can either use the joystick or the keyboard, and at first I thought using the joystick would be fine. Yeah, no, that was a huge mistake. You move the character by moving the stick, which is simple enough, but then there's jumping. If you push up on the stick, then press the button, you'll do a standing jump. If you push left or right on the stick and then press the button, you'll do a running jump in that direction. Then, if you press down on the stick and press the button, you do a downward jump. Why could you possibly need 3 different jumps? But the bad control doesn't end there. The real problem is with throwing rocks. First, when the joystick is centered, press and hold the button. Next, you need to adjust your aim. This is done by pushing up or down on the stick while still holding the button. Then, to throw a rock to the left or right, push the stick in that direction. Again, you're still holding the button while doing this. It's so complicated, and to make matters worse, aiming's a nightmare. There are only a few positions that your arm on screen physically moves to in order to indicate where you're going to throw. However, there are many more positions to aim in between where your arm moves. This may not have been an issue on the original Macintosh where you're using a mouse, but here it's a nightmare. I almost never hit my target on the first throw, so I end up wasting a lot of rocks. And then having to stop and try and line up your shot takes so long that you're likely to be hit while you're trying to aim. But when I try to quickly aim and throw, I end up jumping by mistake, which often kills me or sends me to the dungeon. It's absolutely horrible! And besides the throwing being bad, you still have to use F7 on the keyboard to pick up items. So, long story short, the joystick sucks. Don't use the joystick. So, switching to the keyboard was much better. You use WASD to move, which is pretty normal, and jumping is a bit more simple. To do a standing jump, you just press the spacebar. To do a running jump, you press A or D and press the spacebar, and then to do a downward jump, you press S and the spacebar. I still think that it's dumb that there are 3 different jumps, but whatever, it's still better. But the biggest improvement is how you throw rocks. Now to aim, you use the cursor keys. To aim higher, just press the cursor up-down key, and to aim lower, just press the cursor left-right key. Then, you just press return to throw in the direction you're facing. It's so much easier than with the joystick, so it leads to many fewer accidental deaths. So yeah, when you play this game, always use the keyboard, don't use the joystick. It's absolutely terrible. As I mentioned earlier, there are 4 areas, each with 3 or 4 rooms. These areas are Trouble, Fireball, Shield, and Black Knight. You start out in the Great Hall and select which area you want to go to by moving the cursor over one of 4 doors and pressing return. The left 2 doors are supposed to be random as if they lead to Trouble or Fireball, but it seems to only ever change if I actually reboot the computer. Between games it seems to be consistent. The center door leads to the Black Knight, though there's nothing to indicate this. The right door leads to the shield, as indicated by a graphic of the shield above the door. Each room consists of some enemies to avoid or kill, and some platforming challenges. And I must say, the platforming is horrible. This is mainly because once you're in the air, that's it, you don't have any control over your jump. Like, look at this part in the fireball section. The movement of these platforms seems almost random, and there's a lot of times when it seems like you should make it, but you don't. It's just really insanely hard to time your jumps here, and I've died many times. And it doesn't help that sometimes when I'm trying to move over a little bit, the character decides it would be better just to walk off the platform. Seriously, what the heck? There's a lot about the platforming hazards in this game that just seem really unfair. Like, how are you supposed to avoid these rocks? You're already on a moving platform, so you can't really jump over them, and there's a lot of times they land right in the middle of the platform you're on, so you can't really duck under them. Your only option is to get the shield first so you can just use it to protect yourself. Or look at this, these birds are the worst. If they start coming at you when you're on a ladder, you're screwed. Overall, there really are a lot of questionable choices with the level design in this game. Most of the time when I die, I feel it's due to the level design not actually being challenging, but just being unfair. In the shield area, the goal is to climb to the top of this tower and get a magic shield. But a good portion of this section is just really confusing. Like, look at this room. Where are you supposed to go? Here? Nope. Here? Nope. Naturally, you're supposed to climb to the top of this platform and dump this bucket of water on the dragon, then go to where the dragon comes from. Now tell me, does this look like a bucket of water? No. And why would you think to walk past the dragon? I understand that it's stunned, but still, touching any other enemy in the game kills you. Even this guy, after you knock him down, if you try to walk past him, you trip over him and die. And there's nothing indicating that you're supposed to go in there, so on a first playthrough, you're really only going to try that as a last resort. Then, when you get to the top, you would think it'd be a simple matter to pick up the shield. Yeah, no. You have to stand in a very specific spot to pick it up. Then, once you do, you're unable to move, and you have to raise the shield to have it get struck by lightning in order to proceed. Yeah, because that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I guess it is magic lightning, but still, it's kind of confusing. Now, the fireball area. This part sucks. I already talked about it before, but seriously, it just sucks. I hate these platforms. Moving on, these brooms here are pretty annoying, but they're not that tough. Just throw rocks at them until they start vibrating, then just walk past. Really, the worst part of this room is that either the eye will get in my way, or I'll accidentally walk off these tiny platforms. If somehow you do make it to the top, then you can try to open this door. I don't know how you're supposed to figure out the combination, but there are only 6 possible ones, so I just tried all of them until it worked. And then the wizard just gives us the fireballs. Now, if he was just going to give them to us like that, why did he make us go through all that trouble? I don't know, he's a wizard, probably best not to try and figure out his logic. Probably the worst area in the game is Trouble, which is basically a dungeon. You can get here either by falling in a hole or by going through the wrong door in the Great Hall. You have to get a key from room 3 and take it back to room 1 in order to get out. If you fell in a hole to get in here, that's not so bad as it'll start you in room 3. However, if you went through the door in the Great Hall to get there, you'll start on room 1. If that's the case, you need to go from room 1 to room 3 in order to get the key, and then go from room 3 back to room 1, which means you're probably just better off resetting the game. While it technically is possible to get to room 3 and back, it's really hard and it's just way too easy to die in this game. Music is often one of my favorite parts of playing a game, and here we're given the choice between having sound effects or music, so let's try the sound effects first. Well, that was pretty boring. How about the music? That's much better. This music's awesome. While I guess the sound effects are pretty nice, I highly recommend using the music instead. It's great. Although, it does get a little old as it is just the same track for the entire game, and it doesn't loop very well. But, ignoring that, it's fun music and it makes me happy. Many games can be ruined if the enemies aren't interesting or well varied. So, how does Dark Castle fare? Well, it's kinda hard to say. On the one hand, we do seem to have a decent assortment of enemies. We have birds in the outdoor areas that swoop down to attack you. Then there are the mutants that wander around and just get in your way. We have bats that slowly move towards you, and rats that scurry around. The bats and rats can both give you the plague, though having elixir will protect you for a short time. Once the elixir is gone, however, one hit and you're dead. Then you have 3 different types of henchmen: rock henchmen, whip henchmen, and gun henchmen. And really, how is that fair? They get guns and all you get are rocks? Come on! In one room, there's a big flying eyeball that shoots fireballs at you, and there's a magic broom that somehow kills you. So really, there's a good assortment of enemies, but they're not that great. I mean, birds, bats, rats, it's very cliché. but I guess since there's a lot of different enemy types, it's still relatively interesting. Now, normally I'd talk about the final area or level, however, I'm not very good at this game, so I couldn't get past this first room in the Black Knight section. But I will comment that it seems that the other areas are completely pointless. You don't actually need the fireballs or shield to enter this area, so what's the point? But anyway, that's as much of the game as I can get through. Dark Castle on the Commodore 64 isn't bad, but it isn't great, and it's mostly due to the awful controls. Even on the keyboard, the controls just aren't great. Now I can see how using the mouse to aim might be better like it originally was on the Macintosh, but it just doesn't translate well to aiming with a keyboard or joystick. However, I definitely think this game is still worth playing today. It provides enough challenge that it won't be over too quickly, and it's a lot of fun just to sit down and try and get a high score. At some point I definitely want to try and play it on the Macintosh just to see how it was meant to be played. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and consider subscribing. Have you played Dark Castle on the Commodore, or have you played it on another system? I've only played this version, so I'm curious how it compares to others. Please let me know down in the comments. So, until next time, so long.